Welcome. My name is Brooke Kildee, and we are so thrilled that you're here today. Thank you for giving up your Sunday afternoon to come and listen to our presentation. Just a couple of things to get out of the way. Alistair is going to be presenting this opportunity. And if you have questions, if you would just hold them till the end, then you can more than happy to have you raise your hand and ask any question that comes to mind or write it down as he goes through the presentation. The other thing is, just so that everybody knows, we are absolutely strong supporters of everybody and anybody who is growing locally and growing food, whether it's through CSAs or whatever they are doing. We believe that everybody, we all benefit from this. And we've just created a sort of paradigm shifting way of doing what we're doing. And so we're going to go ahead and get started, and I hope you enjoy the show. So thanks so much. Okay, Alistair, over to you.
All right, won't be a second. And going. Okay. Welcome. Thank you very much for turning up today. Just going to start off with a very unusual request. It was funny in the preamble before we started the call, something came up which brought something to mind which made me laugh. And we were talking about teenagers, but in reality, what I want to do is address something, and that's how we listen. Because as human beings, we never actually listen to what's being said. We listen to what's being said through the filter of our past. And when I mention teenagers, it's usually a good one to bring up because it's a pretty involved conversation. If you bring up teenagers, most people have an experience, and it's either, as I said, I love them to death, or where do I find the pine box to put them in, and everything in between, because that's the listening that has come from our past. So today, what I'd like you to do is just to listen from what's possible on this planet, not from a human perspective. And I know it's very difficult because hopefully we're all humans on this call, but to listen from a planetary perspective with a little bit of common sense. I call it critical thinking, I think they call it these days. You have to go and get a degree in this now at university. Where I grew up, common sense was something that you got from your parents, but it seems to have disappeared today, especially when it comes to health and food. So let's get started. Our company is called Wondrous World, and we're going to introduce today, I guess you could call it a division, which is Wondrous Food. I am the farmer in this situation, and I laugh at that statement because if you told me 5 years ago that I would be a farmer at 60 years of age, you would have been attending my funeral about 2 weeks later, because I would have dropped dead laughing my backside off at the thought of me becoming a farmer at 60. I'd never planted anything except the occasional cannabis plant. And yet here I am today at 60 years of age doing something that is really not a lot of fun. But this is how could I put this? A mission is the best way. I'm driven to do this. Brooke and I have between us around 13 business startups in our career, business careers. We have around 55 years between us in and out of the alternative health industry. So that's where we came from. We started a little bit of background on the company. We started Wondrous World in 2018 after having spent a few years looking at ways of changing the planet, let's just put it that way. And we were working with a gentleman who ran the Australian Counterinsurgency Commando Division for about 10 years. And I didn't know it because he turned out to be a bit of a crook and he ripped us off. But he gave me an unbelievable education on how to take on something monstrous behind enemy lines and defeat it. And when I say monstrous, I'm talking about pretty much every industry on the planet. You're talking about the food industry is now controlled by giants. The drug industry in this country, $4.2 trillion a year. You go up against companies like that with competitive products, you probably don't have a very long life expectancy. And I don't say that lightly. People disappear all the time. So we started this business, and we started it with a very clear picture in our head. We had long ago realized in our alternative health career that we were doing not much different than allopathic medicine. We were simply treating the symptoms of a broken body, but it goes a little bit deeper than that. So we decided to go down the path with what we call functional products. So we sourced and found products that feed the systems of the body. For example, we started off in hemp because hemp feeds the endocannabinoid system in the body, which, as they've discovered, is the master control system of all systems in the body. And yet that product was illegal for about 100 years. So our first attempt at getting this launched was killed. In fact, our first 3 attempts were killed. Firstly, by the banking industry in the hemp section. We'd managed to source some unbelievable 0 THC, incredibly powerful, grown in Colorado, manufactured in Colorado hemp. It took us 1.5 years to find merchant services that would actually allow us to sell it, even though it had no THC. And we finally got those. We invested around $100,000 in inventory. And 2 weeks later, they pulled the plug on all the merchant services. And 33,000 hemp companies lost the ability to sell the product, which is what happened to the hemp industry. Killed it dead. Well, it's maybe not dead, but it's certainly on life support at the moment. So the other 2 attempts, the first week we were actually signed up 2 WNBA player coaches, sorry, 2 WNBA players and 1 WNBA player coach who was signing on board with us to invest and take our model out to the public. That week, COVID arrived. And those people didn't even know if they had a job the next week, let alone investing in a business. So that was the end of that. We had a very clear picture on our business plan. We first wanted to introduce health products for humans. We were going to then follow that up with health products for our pets, because we've got some truly remarkable products. And then finally, our third part of our business model was to put our health knowledge back into the food chain once we had a business to support us. What's that saying? Life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. That should be the testimony of our business. Yeah, I need to just move this here. Okay. So the third attempt was to introduce the dog chews that we have. We have 5 German short-haired pointer dogs that live with us. We had them for about 10 years. And the day that we actually rang to place our order, we were told that COVID had shut down the supply line, and for the next 4 months, we wouldn't see anything. So that led us into the final stage of our business plan, which was introducing the food. So this is a few photos for you. This is our journey. That's one of our German short-haired pointers. She's around 50 pounds. Now, have a look at those turkeys. There's not a lot of difference, and they are 14 weeks old. In fact, those turkeys dressed out between 26 pounds and 44 pounds each, which was a phenomenal result, except it was COVID and nobody was even having their neighbors over. So we did not sell a lot of giant turkeys. We did sell a lot of pieces of turkeys. So we also started on chickens. We did both trials on layer chickens. We raised a brood of about 100 layers, and also we did about 3 different trials on meat birds. And the results were spectacular. On the egg laying side of it, most of the eggs that were laid, and chickens lay the smallest eggs in their career in their first year. But most of our eggs were either extra large jumbos, 65% of them. It was quite phenomenal. The other thing, the chickens were really, really stunning and huge. And the eggs were truly a superfood. The best testimonial we had on this came from believe it or not, an 18-month-old boy. We had a young guy who was helping me on the farm, and they used to feed their son 2 vital eggs every day, and he ate 1 or 2 of them. They went on to our eggs, and for 3 months, he cleaned his plate literally every day with 2 eggs. They ran out of our eggs, went down the shop, bought some vital, cooked them up for breakfast for him, and he pushed the plate off the table. Wouldn't touch them. Now, how does an 18-month-old know they're not even the eggs that he was eating yesterday? And I laugh, but it is the best testimonial we've ever had on our eggs, because you can't con an 18-month-old into anything, as I'm sure you know. So we moved on from the food side to looking at what we call regenerative agriculture. So how do you restore land rapidly? And that's why we moved into creating the chicken tractors, which housed around 40-odd chickens each. And we would just tow those around the property, leave them for about a week on each place, and the chickens dig up the land. They fertilize it with their manure and our secret ingredient, and it restores the land pretty quickly. Good way of regenerating damaged land. So that led us to creating what is, we believe, the world's first whole planet food. Because while we saw spectacular results in the chickens, we looked at the chickens and realized they don't really go to the supplement store, right? So how do we put this back into their food chain the way that we were trying to do it back into our food chain? So whether you believe me or not, I don't mind. I don't know anything about fertilizer or food, downloaded the formula for this planet food directly from the planet. And it's made up of the most natural ingredients you can possibly imagine. So we started doing this for the sprouted grain to add to the chickens, and the results were spectacular. But we pretty quickly realized that there weren't too many people who were going to do this, especially on a commercial level. Because please understand, everything we were trying to do is to alter the food chain on a massive scale, not on a small community farm. We wanted to give farmers and people real choices about how they grow their food other than what they have today. So we created this fertilizer, and I gave some to Brooke, and this was in February in Boulder. It was about 10 degrees outside, and she put it on an aloe vera plant that hadn't moved for 2 years, hadn't grown. And you can see on the left-hand side a little shoot there. That appeared after 3 days after having put on the fertilizer. That photo is an aloe vera plant 4 weeks later. That's the shoot. Unbelievable. So this works on everything. Every growing thing you can imagine it works on. So we created this fertilizer as a liquid. This was going to be a little business card, because nobody was handing out business cards. So we did a little 8-ounce bottle that easily mixes up into a couple of gallons and applied. And we also brewed up 1 gallon bottles. That was about 3 years ago, and we have some of that left. However, we decided fairly quickly after this not to do the bottles, because shipping water around the country is really bad for the planet, and it's extremely expensive. So we created an alternative, which we'll talk about in a moment. But let's just talk about what's in this so you understand what the magic is behind our food. So alpaca manure, alpaca and llama are particularly well-known animals, but they have the second most potent natural manure on the planet, second only behind bat guano. But bat guano is pure heat. It's just pure nitrogen, whereas alpaca manure is seed to harvest. It's literally full spectrum. We then add to this the soil-borne organisms. This is a supplement that has been on the market for over 45 years. It's sold as a probiotic over the counter. We sell this, and it's the only gut product, and I shouldn't say this out loud, that we've ever found in 55 years that actually works. It's made of the things that we're missing. The bacteria that comes from the soil. Human beings have lost the plot. We've forgotten that what gave birth to life on this planet 3.5 billion years ago was bacteria. Bacteria led to the creation of soil. Soil led to the creation of humans. And we, in our brilliance, have decided we don't need bacteria. So we've conducted a war on it for about 50 years. Killed it all off on the soil, killed it off on us. And while we're made of 3 trillion cells, most people don't realize we're actually made up of 40 trillion bacteria, give or take a few 100 million, I guess. So we brew this for 5 days. And just to give you an idea, most people know about probiotics. They heard about colony forming units. Now, we don't talk about colony forming units normally because we're all bacteria. It comes alive the minute it hits your gut. In fact, it's grown as a community for 8 weeks, put to sleep in its own food supply, which is fulvic and humic minerals. So when it wakes up, it's got food to eat. And as soon as it hits 16% moisture, it will come alive. And it doesn't matter whether that's in 6 weeks or 600,000 years. This product will stay asleep until it hits moisture. One other thing to be aware of, these bacteria have been around for billions and billions of years. And at the moment, courtesy of the global warming going on, we're releasing bacteria and viruses into the environment that the human body has never experienced. And I'm not trying to sell fear, this is just a fact. So our bodies have no defense. However, the bacteria that's in our food and in this probiotic, they are the natural defense against these. So by having this in your diet or taking this as a supplement, you're providing protection that just doesn't exist anywhere else on the planet. We then, after we've brewed it for 5 days, let's just go back for a second, because I didn't finish that. That's pretty important. But to give you an idea, we start off with 80 of these capsules, which is the equivalent of about 3 trillion colony forming units. And then as it brews over the next 5 days, those bacteria will double in mass every 20 minutes. And you need a really big calculator to do those those maths if you'd like to. So at the end of this, we have the most unbelievably biologically active planet food you can imagine. So after that, we had ocean. So again, we had ocean. We add 90 ocean-derived minerals. It's easier doing it than saying it. And we also add 83 fulvic and humic minerals, vitamins, and amino acids. Now, yes, it's a bit of a double whammy because a lot of the minerals are copied in the ocean, but the fulvic and humic minerals, as I mentioned, was primarily as food for the bacteria. So we're going to put in like hundreds of trillions of bacteria into the soil. We want to make sure they've got something to eat. That's why we also add that. And also the amino acids, which I'm not going to go into too much because then I'd be knocking things like glyphosate and Roundup and selling fear, which I don't really want to do. So then once you've done this, once we've made it, it is applied as 30-to-1. And you just put it on. You cannot kill your plants with this food at all. You can put it on neat on seeds and the seeds will survive. This will not kill your plants unless you overwater it. Outside of that, that's why I call it growing for dummies, because anyone can do this. Only fertilizer needed from a seed to a harvest. So because we don't ship water anymore, we created brew your own kits. So these are kits where people can very easily just brew the fertilizer at home and grow their own food. Right, so we've got this fertilizer. We went and introduced this to a farmer. That year, he put it on his farm. He's one of the top sellers at Denver markets. He's been there for 9 years. That year, he went from 3 acres to 2 acres. He only applied it lightly twice. Had the best year he's ever had in 9 years at the markets. Ate his own tomatoes for the first time in his career. And I thought, yay, we've got a customer. He bought our chickens, by the way, because the house we were in sold. So we had to sell the chickens in 3 days. So he bought our chickens for his farm. So did we get a customer? No, the next year we never heard from him. I was shocked. I went back to see him. I found his crops being devastated by insects, destroyed. Terrible year. I reapplied all of the fertilizer, stopped all the insect damage, brought them all back to life, asked him for $100 so I could put a tote in place so I didn't have to hand water his vegetables, and he had to think about it. So I just packed up and left. That's when I realized that farmers just aren't interested. Until I'm at the farm stand next to them at the farmer's market, taking their customers, they're not going to listen to me because they already get paid the maximum amount. So why would they bother doing anything extra, even though it makes them a lot more money? So that was when I learned that farmers aren't going to be my marketplace. So we have a facility in Wiggins. We took on a barn down there that has about a couple of 100,000 pounds of alpaca manure for our fertilizer. And this is, I don't know if you know where Wiggins, Colorado is, but it's not far from Fort Morgan. This is agricultural ground zero. Right? It's all industrial farming down there. There isn't a market garden within 50 miles, and I found out why. Weather being the main one. So we started off that first year about 400 square foot. You can see I'm not a great organic gardener because you've got all of this black fabric covering, and people said, oh, that's not organic. And we're not organic. Organic does not exist, as I'll talk about shortly. We are health farmers. We create healthy food to create healthy people. The second year, I upped that from 400 square feet to 10,000 square feet. This was what I started with. That's what we ended up with. Because I don't like farming, I ended up making a Mediterranean garden so that I could wear flip-flops, a pair of shorts, and a T-shirt to work every day, which was wonderful. It certainly turned out nicely, and it was a lot of hard work doing it. Probably would never do that again. I also decided to build some raised garden beds, as you can see up the back here, which seemed like a good idea at the time, and really didn't turn out to be such a good idea at the time it took me. The second year, that's right, the second year, this is our melon patch out the front of the property. And we had spectacular watermelons. Unbelievable. Talk about those in a moment. Then the tomatoes, also spectacular. Third year, okay, this last year, we upped it to 22,000 square feet. And that's when we opened this up really to customers later in the season. So we have some people who've tried our food, but not a lot. Maybe only about 30 people have purchased our food on a consistent basis. So how do we come up with it? This is really important for you to understand what's behind this, so that you understand, if you're looking to do this, what goes into what we create. Because as we said, we're alternative health people. So there are two things that we use, and I encourage you all to pay attention to this, because this is our health philosophy. There are things in this world, I mean, as a world, we've become focused on disease, the symptoms and the causes of disease, but we become what we think. So why do we focus on that? We should be focusing on health. And if you look at this, you understand this is logic. This comes from about 1880, I think. So good water is a cause for health. Good food is a cause for health. Exercise leads to good health. Rest leads to good health. Sunshine is critical. Emotional poise, a very old word for no stress. Good luck with that one. Good air, including the frequencies, all of that strangled radio waves and EMF that we have on the planet. Not good for us. And sleep. So they're the primary causes for health. And interestingly, you cannot replace one with more of another. Good luck replacing enough food with extra sleep. It's just not going to work. However, if you think about it and you start to focus on these things and maybe improve the food, then maybe you'll feel like exercising a little bit more. Or if you get enough sleep, you might be able to handle stress a little bit more. So as we start to focus on these things, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. We feed ourselves. So that's one element that we use to approach this. And the second one comes from Professor Justus von Liebig's Law of the Minimum back in 1840. This is a gentleman who was credited with doing the first plant research on the planet. And he also created the very first nitrogen fertilizer. He would be turning over in his grave when you see what the law of the minimum has been done today. But his law says that whatever is present in a plant's life to the minimum will be the cause for the most damage. In today's language, whatever's missing the most is going to hurt the most. It's pretty logical when you think about it, as far as essential things. And this is where the debate comes in. What is important for a plant to grow? So this is a law, by the way, that applies to all life. Scurvy is a probably good one to use for human beings. Back in the 1700s, sailors were dying of this. And it didn't matter what you gave them. If it wasn't vitamin C, they died. That was what was missing to the most, or present to the minimum. Today, the modern interpretation is disgusting. It's what is the minimum we can apply so it still looks like food and will sell. That's today's approach to farming. And when we applied what's missing the most from land, it's pretty much everything except for the chemicals they use to grow our food today. Outrageous. That's why our topsoil is blowing away. We killed off the microbiome. Nothing to hold it there. It's gone. Now, I said I don't want to sell fear, and I don't, because it doesn't work. But there's things that we should actually be concerned about. The obesity cycle. I had this conversation the other day. It's a pretty crazy thing. No nutrition in our food leads the body to thinking it's starving. And when a body is starving, or it needs to store fat, like a woman gets pregnant, the leptin levels, the hormone leptin, gets increased in their body. Leptin delivers a message to our cells to store fat. Your liver gets overwhelmed, and if it can't deal with the toxins in its body, it stores those toxins in a fat cell until one day it can deal with it. This is not a very, very good mix. And this is the self-fulfilling prophecy of food that isn't food anymore. Farms today are disappearing at an incredibly rapid rate. And farming today, big dominates all. It's a pretty sad state of affairs when you have Bill Gates as one of the biggest farm owners on this planet, on this country, I should say. And this is a guy who was taken to court by the Indian government for crimes against the planet. Let's just make him our biggest farmer. Quite a lot of sense. And it's all pure chemical farming, killing the earth that gave birth to it and gives us life. How sensible is that? The alternative methods, and I say alternative, they're not really the original methods, permaculture, biodynamic farming. None of these have made an impact. They do a great job. The food is fantastic, but on a commercial level, they have failed to make any impact on improving our soil or helping the planet. And farming is profit at all costs. The environment we live in, saturated with chemicals as we are, just about everybody, I almost guarantee on this call, has got glyphosate and forever chemicals in their body. Organic is a lie. It no longer exists. The rain falls, chemicals fall. Unless it's indoors, you can't stop it. So we have to protect ourselves by making ourselves stronger. And the distributors of the food industry are the ones controlling what you eat. There are only 4 potato varieties in America now because that's what feeds the fast food industry. There used to be hundreds. It's insane. And our price of food is oil dependent because it's all shipped all over the place because it's easy to distribute. You know, people don't understand much about the egg industry and why they pasteurize eggs. They have to kill the eggs because they give the grower 30 days to get that egg, once it's laid, into the hands of the distributor. And then the distributor is given 30 days to get that egg into the hands of the retailer. And then the retailer is given 30 days to sell that egg. So you go to the supermarket, you could be buying eggs that are up to 90 days old. So you got to make sure those eggs are dead before you do that. They're not going to last. And this is the most important thing. And again, I don't want to talk about fear, but what they're doing with the egg industry at the moment is obscene. They're now going to be vaccinating the chickens with mRNA vaccines to save them from the bird flu. And they're not going to put the label on the eggs because they don't have to. They didn't vaccinate the eggs, did they? They just vaccinated the chickens. Now, I'm not going to get into the debate about vaccines, but it should be a choice. You choose to get vaccinated or not. It should not be delivered surreptitiously through your food supply. We should have the choice. It's that simple. Now, I talk about fear because fear is the mind killer. It's a really great saying that came out of that movie, Dune. The mind is our higher self. The minute we get scared, we shut off critical thinking. We just become a slave and go along. So while we should be informed by all of this craziness going on, it should not shut us down. So why do we need fresh food? I could talk to you for hours on this, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to give you one example that most people have never heard of. They're called polysaccharides. Now, I'm sure you've all heard of a monosaccharide. It's called sugar, more addictive than chemical. But polysaccharides are derived from vine-ripened fruit and vegetables. Well, good luck getting vine-ripened anything these days. The primary use of these long-chain sugar molecules are for cellular communication. It's how your cells talk to each other, especially your immune system. So no polysaccharides in our diet leaves our immune system playing Scrabble with a couple of X's, a Y, and a Q. Good luck making anything out of that. I hope you get the analogy. So vine-ripened fruit and vegetables. If you ever had fruit trees in your backyard, you'll notice that quite often you'll be looking at this perfect peach or something. It's almost perfectly ripe. And you know that. You go out in the morning and some bird beat you to it because nature knows exactly the moment, the second that that fruit is ripe. So what is our solution? Now we're going to get on to the actual nuts and bolts of what we're offering. So ultimately, we want to create community-funded, owned, and run farms. I got to tell you, folks, I was going to put in a little segment here for Michael Jackson in one of his songs, and it was just going to say this. They don't really care about us. And people really need to get it. The people who run this country, who run the world, who run this planet, don't care about us. And no one is coming to fix this. So if we don't do something about it, we're stuck with it. So we've come up with farming for dummies, quite literally. You don't have to know anything about farming to actually be successful in it. You need to know a little bit about food. It helps. So this is what we will be offering. Now, I want to make it very clear. We can't offer that this year. This is 2026. We will be offering this. So it is the holy trinity of food. It will be run by a trust. The trust will own the assets, whether it's land or whatever it is, buildings, created from the operations. There will be a ministry. This is a non-reporting church that conducts the day-to-day operations of the community farm. And the whole thing is controlled by what's known as a PMA, a private member agreement. This is an agreement between the farm and the community that runs the farm. So the funding for that farm will come from the communities, as will a lot of the labor, because a farmer doesn't need to have lots of people every day, just when he's busy weeding, planting, or harvesting. So people who want to come and work on the farm will get paid in food credits, $15 to $20 an hour, which they can go and exchange for any of our products. Our job as a company is, as these farms pop up, we will simply be providing the ingredients to make it all possible. the formulas that we've created. So what makes our food quite different than what's out there is no chemicals ever. And I mean chemical or organic. Thing about organic is they do allow certain organic pesticides to be used. I don't think they're particularly good for us, and they're not needed. We use a filtered living water. So we filter all of they're using tap water in Wiggins, which is pretty crazy. But we filter all of the chlorine out of it, because chlorine is in there to kill bacteria, the bad bacteria, but chlorine can't tell the difference between good and bad bacteria, so it just kills everything. That's why our microbiome is continually under attack if you drink tap water. So we use a filtered water, and we use living water. It's called Analema. It comes from Europe. We got a 96-page research document. It's phenomenal. Just the Analema water requires half the amount of water that you normally would. We use drip irrigation as well, so that we use a fraction of what normal farming would use in water. We reduce the electromagnetic field or the stress in the area, take it back to what it was more like 5,000 years ago with a technology out of Italy called the DPE, the Defense of Planet Earth. This is Nikola Tesla technology that pulls all of the strangled 5G, 4G, 3G, radio waves, satellite waves, all of that unnatural frequencies out of the environment, sends it to the center of the earth, brings it back out of this device and sends it 1.5 miles around the farm and 62 miles in the air. This pulls apart weather patterns. I've seen science documents showing this pulling apart hurricanes. I've personally witnessed it pull apart at least 30 to 40 storm cells down in Wiggins. It's phenomenal. But what it does is it alters, or it takes all of that stress off, which means that plants will finish 4 to 6 weeks earlier than normal. We are doing things that are not genetically possible, and that's been our problem because no one believes us, even though they see the photos. So, of course, we use our plant food. It sees the land healthier after every harvest. This is true regenerative farming. We put our plants in the ground, we fertilize it with our planet food. At the end of the year, when we harvest those plants, the land is healthier than when we started. And the taste of healthy food is exceptional. Word of mouth is how we've actually survived. Anybody who's tasted it will testify to that. Now, we use a scale to measure. This is not just guesswork or taste. It's called the brick scale. Most people have never heard of it. And here's the really inconvenient truth of the farming industry. Healthy food cannot be eaten by insects. And healthy food is completely disease resistant. Why? It's very simple. Insects are nature's garbage men. Their job is to take out the trash. So when they come across a crop, they don't know whether it's food or what it is. They just know it's either healthy or it's not healthy. If it's not healthy, they have to eat it. So if it's food, the farmer goes, that's our food. And then out comes the pesticides, the herbicides, the fungicides. So not only do we get food that according to nature is not fit for consumption, we get side helpings of all of those wonderful chemicals to go with it. And we wondered why we have a $4.2 trillion health industry in America that delivers 37th in the world in health. So what is the brick scale? It's a simple scale. You can just see down here, you've got apples, bananas, bell peppers, cherries, carrots, etc. Here, this first column is poor. That's insects will be eating it. Second column, better. And insects stop eating it around about this middle, okay? It measures the minerals and the sugars, the content in the food. Now, it can be played with. You can artificially inflate this with, you call it chemicals, but and the farming industry has found how to do it, but we do this naturally. Anything over 7 on the brick scale, and insects stop eating. And the reason they stop eating it, because if they eat that food, the minerals and sugars turns to alcohol and it kills them. Pretty simple, they're dead. Grasshoppers have the highest tolerance to this. They can eat up to 14 on the brick scale. Interestingly, over the last 3 years in Wiggins, and I've had the same grasshopper plagues everybody else has, no damage to the food. The only damage we had was the grasshoppers ate a lot of my sunflower seed leaves last year. The sunflower plants, they just ate the leaves, didn't touch the food. Quite amazing. And we use a small digital refractometer to measure this. So you just grab a little bit of the food, squeeze a few drops into the refractometer, and you know exactly how healthy the food is. If you went through the supermarket with one of these, you would not get out of the poor column. I've done it. It's pretty sad. So we're just going to be offering farm food. Ultimately, we can't grow everything, of course. We're not going to do cattle and sheep and things like that, but we will go out and find farmers who will grow according to our standards. But in the community, we're going to find food that people want to buy, and we're going to cut out the middleman. So we will source and expand our food offering, and our first option that we're offering, and this will be available almost immediately when we open, are the most divine take and bake pastries you've ever eaten. I kid you not. They're sold at the moment to most of the high-end coffee shops around Boulder and Denver. We know the creators of this, and what they'll be doing is supplying this directly so that you, as the consumer, get a win-win relationship. No middleman means the supplier gets paid more, so they win, and you consumer pays less, so you win. And our company, we don't take any margin on this. This is just an introduction. So we're going to introduce you not only to this type of food, but many others as we go along. This is a new way of distributing food and keeping it at a community level. So what are we actually offering? And we say pioneers are invited because this is pioneering. Nobody has done anything quite like this. This year, we can't offer the full farm model, the community farm model, because for the last 7 years, we've been operating actually below the poverty line. There's no financial support from this. All of our money from investors has come from either our customers or good friends who've actually got to taste our product and know what we're committed to. So this is kind of an interim, because this year the farm now has to show that it can actually make money as well as the company. We're going to begin selling our fertilizer this year. To give you an idea, there is a huge market for it. Our technology will finish the flowering cycle of the cannabis plant in half the time that is currently regarded as genetically possible. Half the time. That should make me extremely rich. But right now, we're poor because for the last 4 years, as I've told head growers this, they just tell me to stop smoking the product because that's not genetically possible. Their egos will not allow it, even though I show them the photos. So we are this year having to limit this farm to just 25 units or 25 households. That's all we are going to be committing to, dedicated this farm to this year. The Wiggins farm will grow the food specifically dedicated to feeding these 25 households as its priority. So those 25 households or 25 units, this farm is there for them first and foremost. Food that is not purchased by the participants will be sold at the farm gate in Wiggins or through third-party distributors. There is 500 houses just down the road in Wiggins. It's an hour away from everywhere, in the middle of nowhere, and these people have no fresh food at all. But they're not our priority. The 25 people coming in will be. They will be available to purchase what's left. As protein will be initially limited, we give you a supply guarantee. Now, what does that mean? Well, we can produce about 100 meat chickens a month. We will be able to guarantee every one of those 25 units, 3 of those chickens. So that means you don't have to buy them, but at least initially, until we expand that operation, you will be guaranteed being able to get 3 meat chickens a month. If you don't want to buy them, that's not a problem. We'll just make them available to other people in the 25. And if they don't want them, then it'll be sold at the farm gate or to the other distributors. So, for example, in the eggs, we're starting off, we have 102 layers that will start laying in about 4 to 6 weeks. And our eggs are truly superfood, as I said. Those eggs, we will guarantee you a dozen eggs, a dozen eggs a week. So basically, we have enough eggs because we produce 50 dozen eggs a week to provide you 2 dozen eggs. But we're guaranteeing 1 dozen, and then whatever's left is available to your purchase afterwards. Now, we are adding another 200 baby chicks this month, and then we'll be raising another 400 chickens to build our bird supply up to 600 chickens. We're also going to be raising pullets for people who want to do their own home-based chickens. And believe me, our chickens are unbelievable. They will not get the bird flu. I'll tell you that now. The ingredient that we use in that is the genius that created that is the world's top microbiologist and macrobiologist. And while we haven't proven this in medical studies, I don't know if we ever will, he has told us categorically this product will take glyphosate and forever chemicals out of the soil and out of your body, which is pretty amazing. Okay, back to this. So the most important thing is freedom. You don't have any commitment to buy anything on a week-to-week basis. This is not like a CSA, okay, where you have to buy and you have to take the quantities. You buy what you want, leave what you don't. That's simple. Sales will be done via our website, and the food will be delivered to your home once a week. We haven't set the date. We just have to work in with the people who are involved. And because we're delivering to our local community, there's some flexibility in that as well. Now, the interest we're going to pay as part of this offer gets paid out on a week-to-week basis starting the first week of July. We'll talk more about that in a moment. And the eggs, chickens, and portobello mushrooms will start being available in April. So while we don't start paying the interest until July, food will be available from April. We are a bit restricted in Wiggins because our season starts a little later. But this year, I'm going to take care of a lot of that by putting crop covers on and protection for the food, because last couple of years have been wiped out more than twice and had to replant. But because we can produce like 90-day watermelons in 60 days, we can still replant and produce a full harvest. Just to give you an idea, last year, I almost got a second harvest of our watermelon vines. A second harvest, when most people can't even grow a watermelon in Colorado once. So, and these aren't the short ones. These are 90-day watermelons and 100-day watermelons. So, and I promise you, we've had people tell us it's the best watermelon they've ever tasted. So what is the actual offer, ladies and gentlemen? This is where it gets a little bit more to the nitty-gritty. So the cost to participate in this is a loan. It's $2,500. This is to raise the money we need to expand the Wiggins farm to 5 acres. It's that simple. It's paid as a 12-month loan to Wondrous World, and the loan is structured using what we call a convertible note. This is, as an Inc. company, this is how we've raised a lot of our capital. We give people a chance to participate, we get the money we need, but they're not committed to being a shareholder. They get to wait a year and see whether they like our company or not. Now, they're perfectly honest. 7 years is we've just broken. I say broken. We've had all these plans and not been able to deliver because of things out of our control. When I look at this from a higher perspective, it almost seems like we were forced to do the food first, even though it made no sense, because we've had to live in tiny apartments and hotel rooms and on food stamps, government assisted housing. And that's over. That's why we're doing this model this year, so we can actually put the business on a good footing. We're going to pay 20% interest on that $2,500. But we pay it as a $50 a week food credit starting the first week of July. Now, the reason we're waiting to July is because by then the farm is in full swing and it will not impact. We're paying out $1,250 a week in food credits to the people who funded this, and that won't significantly impact us while we're in full swing. I'm just being upfront with you because that's how we are. We're probably a little bit too honest, but we're inviting people to be partners with us. This is not us doing this. We're inviting people to participate and help us change farming. So good, bad, or indifferent, we're always going to be upfront with you. The credits not used each week will roll over to next week. And while we say this is paid over 10 weeks, if it takes 14 or 16 weeks because you're away for 2 weeks, that's not a problem. But, again, this is very flexible. Now, that $50 a week, you don't have to buy any more than that. That $50 a week, that's free and it's delivered to your home. That's covered in the interest. If you want more food than that, then it's simple. You pay for it and it's delivered at the same time. Paid on the website, delivered to your door. At any time in the 12 months, that note can be converted into company shares. And we'll talk about that. The shares will be discounted 16% off our current price. Now, why would you think about doing that? Why would you become a shareholder in our company? Well, one of the reasons is that the minute you do, you lock in a 20% discount on all Wondrous products. So that food will be 20% less. Now, to give you an idea of our food costs, our pricing is usually around 10% below farmers market prices. That's roughly where we like to position ourselves. The eggs will be about $8 a dozen, which with a 20% discount would come down $6.20. However, if we were to actually sell our food based on its nutritional value, we would only be selling to the 1%ers, because most of our food is 4 or 5 times its competitors as far as with the nutritional value in it. And we're not charging according to that. I know farmers that are trying to do that now. So they're saying, well, hey, if you eat one of my carrots, you'd have to eat 20 of their carrots. So I'm only going to charge you 10 times more for this carrot. So you're halving the price of eating those 20 carrots. That's their logic. Yeah. Now, households can purchase more than one unit if they want to, if you've got a bigger household or you like the investment side of it. Or if you're single and would like to participate but not sure you can get through all of that food, we can also help hook you up with someone else and you can share a unit. So again, this is just about creating an environment that works for our people involved and gets us the money we need to start feeding people. That's kind of it from a presentation. I wanted to really leave this now open for questions. There's a lot that is still going to be worked out as we go through. As far as a food supply goes, we're going to grow anything you want. So very soon we're going to send out a list of the stuff we're going to grow, and it's all the regulars. But if there's something that's on there that, if there's something that's not on there that you'd like to be seen grown, then we'll do that. I can't guarantee I'll be successful, but I don't have to, because I don't do the growing. The fertilizer does it. And so far we haven't found anything it can't grow. It's kind of crazy. So totally wide open as to what food is available. Questions, please ask them.
So that was a lot of information. So everybody, I've muted everybody. So if you, and we're small enough that please just jump in if you've got a question. Kate, you look like you've got a question. You're muted though. Do you know how to unmute? Here, let me see if I can unmute. At the bottom of your...
Got it.
Done.
Perfect. Okay, go ahead.
Can we come work on the farm?
The answer to that is yes. The only trouble is that it's in Wiggins. It's an hour away.
I live in Firestone, so
yeah, you're 45 minutes away. I drove past you every day. We live in Longmont, so I have a 2-hour drive there and back every single day. It's 7 days a week is not much fun, the driving. However,
awesome.
Yes. So this year I'm about to start taking on some workers on the farm, because I've done it all myself up until now, and I'm too old to do that. And 5 acres is just too much for me. So yes, there will be an opportunity, but we really hadn't anticipated doing that much this year. Next year, we will be opening a Boulder Longmont farm. So there will be a local farm delivering local produce, because even Wiggins is too far away. But Wiggins will be our protein supplier for Longmont, etc.
Do you ever need delivery drivers?
We will potentially do that as well, because I've done the deliveries up till now, because I really like to get to know the people and answer any questions, so they get to talk to the farmer, if you can call me that.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm not sure next year whether I'll be doing it or whether we'll just have someone else to do the deliveries.
Okay.
But one of the things also to let you know what we're trying to do, because this world is pretty screwed up and we've forgotten how to communicate with each other, because the politicians like to keep us fighting, right? Disagreeing on the things. And one thing we've learned is that we can all agree good food tastes fantastic, and it's something we all need. And if we can actually get together as a community around food, we might forget that our neighbor is a Republican, or he's a Democrat, or he's a liberal, or he's black, or he's white, or he's yellow, or who cares, right? Because none of that really matters. And when you get together over a table, and I love the Italians, right? You sit down, that's the community. You sit down at a meal and you spend 3 hours eating and talking to each other. I grew up where you didn't say a word. It was who can eat the fastest and get the hell out and do something else. So no, we want to bring a community back. We want, and it's not for everybody. We understand that. A lot of people are going to be very comfortable with ignoring what's happening and going off to the supermarket until there's nothing there to pick up. We're not talking to those people. We're talking to the ones who can see what's coming. And Kate, you're obviously one of them. So yeah, this is something that we understand going forward. At the moment, we're restricted because we need the money. But next year, there will be members in the community who can afford to put up the $2,000 to $3,000, which will be paid back to them over 2 years, and others that will volunteer to work on the farm.
Can
This
I
is
do
the thing
both?
about a community. Yes.
Yes,
I mean, this is the thing
absolutely.
about a community. And if you want to become a farmer, then great, because all it's going to take is someone to put their hand up and say, I want to create one of these community farms, go around and get enough people interested, and bingo. And because we have the fertilizer that can take any land and grow healthy food on it, we don't have to go and buy or lease expensive farmland. We can do this on the crappiest land and regenerate it at the same time. Everybody should know I'm not a huge fan of humanity. I think the species has become too stupid to survive. Not talking to you personally, please take that. Sorry, I shouldn't say that.
Yes, exactly.
All right, I'll shut up. Don't mean to
Yeah.
leave you hanging. No, seriously, yeah, the planet needs some help. That's all I can say. And we're not alone in this world. We have
Yes.
billions of other inhabitants, and we suck as a neighbor. We've got to stop sucking as a neighbor. But the only way we can help this planet is by stopping the way we are killing it by the way we grow our food and ourselves.
So, Alistair, Joanne wants to say something.
Sure, sorry.
Yes, go ahead, Joanne.
I am definitely pro small farms and better farming and kinder to animals. But
Yes.
I am a physician by training, and so I can't be anti-vaccine. So I would like to know your stance on that, since you did mention that.
Okay, my stance on vaccines is an individual choice. Okay,
Yeah.
I've spent. If you talk to Brooke, she had 2 vaccine damaged children, and I've watched her run rings around vaccine experts on regular basis. But we don't get into this. Vaccine is an independent choice. My only issue with vaccines, just like antibiotics, it should be your choice. It should not be delivered through your food without telling you.
I can get behind that.
That's
but
all
we
I'm
are
saying.
having epidemics of measles, for example, in Texas because
Right.
of
Again,
personal choice.
we don't really want to get into the discussion, because if it's like monofarming, you put 1 million birds into a barn and they get sick, what a shock. Where do you ever find 1 million birds in nature jammed into one environment? It doesn't happen. We as human beings have lost access to the planet that gave birth to us. We don't have our kids play in the soil anymore. They don't pick up natural immunity anymore. It's just a fact of life. You take a dose of antibiotics, that's the end of your gut flora for 12 months. And that's the end of your natural immunity for 12 months. And I have to say, and we are alternative health, that it's a brilliant business model. It's brilliant. But again, $4.2 trillion a year to be ranked 37th in the world in health.
Oh, I don't disagree with you about that part.
There is something seriously wrong with that equation. That has to change. And the only way we can change that is the food supply.
Yeah. And Joanne, just to jump in here, we just absolutely fundamentally believe that everybody has a choice. I mean, this is about everybody gets to decide what they believe, what they want to go with. And, that's all it is. We're about pulling people together, not separating. So we're about uniting. It doesn't matter what everybody believes. We all need to come together for the benefit of the whole. That's really at the core of everything that we do. And no judgment on anybody for their belief systems. Everybody has a reason for their own belief systems, and that there shouldn't be a problem with that. We should all just, I think, work together for the benefit of all. So that's really where we're coming from.
Thank you.
You bet. Absolutely. Thanks for the question, because it's a really good one.
Ultimately, once we move past this year, we'll have a central point. So everything we've done, by the way, is designed to grow indoors, because whether we like it or not, the planet is no longer our friend for growing outdoors. Seasons are shorter, they're more extreme. And, when we talk about choices, I'm just going to bring this up because I forgot to mention it, because I read this morning, someone did a study on the current bird flu issue. And there are 10 companies that control the egg supply in this country. 10. She investigated one. And in 2 years, that company that had not had one single bird affected by the bird flu raked in an additional $1 billion in profits. 1 billion. This is what fear does, and not informed consent. When you don't give people the right information, they can't make an informed consent. And that's all we talk about, is just getting people the information to think with, so that we can try and put aside the fear and come up with a logical step forward that is going to actually support us. Now, again, if we wanted to, we could be very rich just by selling this food off to the 1%ers at astronomical prices. But that's not what we did this for. We did this for the planet, and secondary, for humans. And I do mean secondary. Well, I do. Brooke doesn't. She's the human fan. I'm the planet fan. Okay.
Well, just it has always really bothered me that healthy, good food is so expensive. That it should be available to everybody. In our opinion, everybody should have access to nutrient-dense food. So, I mean, that's kind of a passion that I have, is to make food, really healthy food, available to everybody.
So let me give you an example. One of the things that we could do with the magic that we have, and this will be developed, is we can grow indoor fish. Okay, I saw this working 22 years ago in Western Australia. So we can grow, it's an Australian sports fish called the barramundi, one of the best tasting fish you've ever eaten. When it's caught in the ocean, when it's in the rivers, it tastes terrible. We can grow a fingerling barramundi to plate size in 120 days, fully organically, indoors. And the capital payback on that entire business infrastructure is 3 years or less. Now, our model is very simple. We take that food and we move it to the third world. And we put in a filleting system in the third world alongside of the fish growing. So we supply all of the local people with the fish, and fish protein is the best protein for growing brains. And then we fillet that fish, and then it gets sold back to the first world at first world prices, which then brings third world countries and businesses first world income. And we start to offset this global imbalance between the third and the first worlds. So again, this is we've designed this as a global model, but there's just no money. We'd need $80 million to launch this as a global model, but we can't get it. Nobody wants to put up that kind of money. And if they do, they want to put it up to shut us down. That's all anybody wants us to do, is to disappear. And I'm going to tell you, after 7 years, it gets harder and harder to show up every day. So that's why Brooke and I, at the end of last year, we finally got the final pieces that we need for this community farm. And we found this amazing woman who worked for Pfizer during COVID, who never got jabbed. She refused. Who never wore a mask, who helped 168 of her co-workers do the same thing using natural law. Now, again, this is just a choice. Their choice. I'm not saying it was the right choice or the wrong choice. But when you use natural law, you can shut a lot of these authorities out that are trying to stop us doing the right thing. And why would the authorities do that? Because they're paid to get re-elected. That's the political system we live in. You do someone a favor by taking money from them, then you owe them a favor. And that's just the way the political system's always worked. It's just become a lot more blatant. And today, big business rules. To give you an idea, on our broiler chickens, our chickens grow 20% bigger, 20% faster on 20% less food. That would save the broiler industry $370 billion a year. That's extra profit. And more importantly, the waste that comes out of all of those chickens breaks down and disappears in no time. So it fixes all of their waste issues. And yet, do you think anybody's interested? Those 6 companies that control that? We're never going to get a phone call. Makes you wonder why, though, doesn't it? They're turning down $370 billion a year for what? I don't know. I'm just putting it out there because it doesn't make any sense to me. I thought when we created this, because we did it based on money and not on health, we don't even talk to health about the middlemen, that this would be a huge success. Nope, nobody cares. It's been an interesting experience. No, that's not right. the consumers who try our food,
Yeah.
they really care.
Yeah, exactly.
So what do we do if we want to be one of the 25 families?
Well, all you do is send us an email. We will send you out a copy of the convertible note. I'd rather do this on a handshake, and that's where we want to go as a business. Get back to the old day where the actual word meant something. But we understand that that's not the way, so we have a convertible note that's put together by lawyers that covers all aspects. We'd send you that, answer any questions you have, get paid, and off we go.
All
That's
the
it.
details.
And also,
Yes.
you're more than welcome to come and visit us on the farm. It's not particularly attractive at the moment because we've got about $50,000 worth of improvements to make on it this year. That's where the money is going to fence it and increase everything. But yeah, anybody's welcome to come down there.
So,
And the chickens are so cute, just so you know. I love the chickens.
By the way, quite apart from the fact that I'm the grunt in the house, the reason why I'm at the farm is because I'm on my own. I've just got the chickens and the plants and nobody annoying me. And I discovered something, that when you take care of plants, they take care of you. They've actually scientifically proven that when you take care of your houseplants and you walk past them, they give off happy pheromones to you.
Yeah.
If you're a stranger or you don't take care of them, they don't do anything. I found, because, with an hour's drive and an hour's back, I'd get down there and I was doing this myself. I never had any time. And then the farm started and I suddenly find myself like wandering around the farm for an hour doing nothing. I go, what am I doing? It's like, I've got all this to do. And it's like, yeah, but this is so peaceful and love. It's like, and the only difference was the plants. So I figured they were saying thank you. But it didn't help my farming, I can tell you.
Amen.
I think were you going to say something else?
I have to give the computer to my husband for his Zoom, but thank you so much for your time and information. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for chatting up. And we'll send a link out to everybody so you can watch it again if you need to.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joanne. Yes. Charlotte, Kate, Bobby.
Any questions?
That's it. I think I'm good too. Yeah, I just want to make sure send that to me and I will get that started. Thank you guys so much. This has been so enjoyable.
We're going to get the documents out tomorrow. And by the way, our space is health, and we need to remind everybody of this because we're just introducing people to the foundation of health. We actually, with our knowledge, come April, we can show you how to stop aging. Not that that's a particularly attractive proposition in my opinion. The sooner I get off this
me neither
bucket, I will be happy. I can't say what I think about the planet, but I'll be happy to go. But I have to make this happen first. So I got no say.
So also, if you just reach out to that support@wondrousworld.org.
Sorry.
Yes.
Thank
you. Yes.
Okay. Awesome.
And just let us know if you're interested. We'll send you out the documents.
I will do so. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you so much, Kate.
Can you give the website or the email again? It's support@Wondrous.
Yes.
World.
You see on the screen, support@Wondrous World.
I was watching your faces.
Oh, no worries.
Okay.
That was also the email that I sent out, came from there about the Zoom call.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you so much for coming and, giving us your Sunday afternoon. Really appreciate you guys.
Charlotte, did you have any questions?
I had a question about who was working the farm, but you answered that.
Yeah.
You're really doing it all by yourself now.
At the moment.
But that's not going to be sustainable.
No, it's not. I've got people waiting to start. I just don't have the money to pay them. I'm one of those crazy people. I could probably get people to work on a volunteer basis. I'm very good at sales. I've done it for most of my life. But I believe that people should be rewarded. If they're going to put in work, yes, I'll give them food, but they also need, you can't pay your electricity bill with a cabbage, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You used to be able to, but you can't anymore. So they've got to have money, and I need to have money to be able to pay them. So I've got a young gentleman. He's a young Mexican guy. He's, typical, working 3 jobs. He's buying a farm in Mexico. So he's just waiting. And I'm going to be bringing on some talent from that perspective, farming talent. And also I'm going to be tapping into the local community in Wiggins to get a couple of volunteers, because there's no hours traveling time. They're just 5 minutes down the road. So I'm too old to be doing 5 acres on my own. I can tell you that, Charlotte. I wouldn't last a week.
Well, you've lasted these 3 years, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, and I've contributed an awful lot of money to my chiropractor.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're you know, I probably owned half a house on the mortgage. Just kidding. But you know, I do complain a lot, but I should point out that I also get a phenomenal workout. Most people have to pay to go to gyms to get those kind of workouts, and it's an all-round one. And of course, the harder you work, the longer you live, which is really not great for me. Someone told me, you know, every time you do this, you know, you're extending your life. Well, there's another reason not to do it.
Oh, stop.
Oh, stop.
Yes, exactly.
Hey, I'm going to be a lot happier once we actually.
We're buying into this. You surviving would be, you know, like a good selling point.
Charlotte, I have to tell you,
Yes,
I can't get
there
out
you
of
go.
this, even if I try.
Yeah, I
This
know.
is
This is our
this is
passion.
my mission in life. I don't get to
Yeah.
leave this planet until I actually make this happen.
Well,
And
it's
I'm not going
also,
to go into the details on that, but I know that for a fact.
but as you well know, any kind of farming is truly a labor of love, because
yeah.
it, you know, that's why they're leaving, you know, all the time. It's very difficult. It's not an easy life.
It's a
But
pretty
when
sad
you really,
statement. Sorry, sweetie, but you know, I was just going to say the average age of farmers in this country is now 66 years of age.
yeah,
66, the average age
Yeah.
of a farmer. Oh
we
my
have to
goodness.
bring, we have to get
Have to
young
get some young
people.
people.
Yes,
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's no
exactly.
future. And one
Right.
thing we've learned is most of the kids who work for these, you know, of the farmers, they don't want to take the farms on anymore. The generational thing is dying.
Yeah.
So we have to be creative, in my opinion. We have to make it fun, which is, it can be fun.
Yeah.
You know, so that's our plan. And Bobby, I mean, we haven't seen you, but if you have anything that you would like to ask or, yes.
Oh, you guys have answered all of my questions, but I do thank you for your time and explaining the process and what you guys are aiming to do.
Fantastic.
Quite apart from anything else, and anybody listening to this later on, even if you're not interested on what we're offering today, remember that everything we've created is to help people do this at home or on their own properties. So, you know, if you want to grow food at home, we have the fertilizer, you know, and again, it's affordable. Everything we do is to help people achieve food self-sufficiency and security. And whether that's growing it at home, and of course, it's a lot easier. We want to introduce people to the amazing planet that we live on, or I should say reintroduce. And one of the simplest ways of doing that is by having them grow some food.
Right. Well, thank you guys. We won't keep you any longer. Really appreciate your coming, and we'll look forward to hearing from you.
All right.
Thanks.
Have a
All
great
right.
afternoon.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye.